when something happens that you didn't want and you don't like, the tendency is that we say, this isn't fair, we don't accept it, this shouldn't have happened. That keeps us stuck. And it's actually when we say, I wouldn't have chosen this, we wouldn't have chosen this, but this is what we have and we will deal with it. That's when we can move on. Acceptance is power. And as long as we say, I don't like this, I'm not accepting it, we're stuck. And that's true for all of us. If we get the sack, or if our fiance dumps us, or if we break our leg, as long as we're saying, this isn't fair, and we're thinking that if I don't accept it, I won't be stuck with it. The fact is, you're stuck with it until you accept it.
Welcome back to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DiCioccio, and today we're thrilled to introduce someone truly remarkable. He's a master storyteller, a visionary illustrator, and a motivational powerhouse whose work has uplifted millions around the world. With a unique gift for turning life's toughest challenges into profound lessons, he's an author who transforms wisdom into art. He's a speaker who fills rooms with inspiration and optimism, and a creative mind who makes the complex beautifully simple. His insights on happiness and resilience have resonated across cultures, touching hearts in nearly every corner of the globe. So get ready to take a deep dive, reflect, and be inspired. Welcome to the show, the author and illustrator who has sold over 8 million books in 49 languages, Andrew Matthews.
Mike, nice to be with you. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here, brother. Like, you could be sleeping right now, because I'm going to let the audience know it's 4:00 in the morning where Andrew's at right now. So we're doing this globally, speaking of globally. And so I appreciate you being with our audience today. I shared off camera the heart of what Mic'd Up's all about, and I cannot think of a better guest to be on the show than yourself. We talk about gratitude a lot, so I want to talk about what being happy really means, and the fact that when you're grateful, you cannot be angry. You cannot be worried in that moment. When you truly feel gratitude, it's a special place to be. And I want to really unpack what that looks like. But also, you got a new book out, so we're going to talk about that. And I have everything linked for our audience, so they don't have to worry about searching it or Googling it. Just go to the show notes, and I have Andrew's website, his social media, and all of his books are going to be linked in there as well. I don't know about all of them, because how many books do you have now? It's like
I've written 12.
At least a dozen.
12 books.
12? Okay. For a second, I think you said 112, and I believed you. Okay, I said a dozen at first, and I was right. Like 112. How old are you? You're like Yoda. You just don't age. 900 years old. Somehow you have a magical power. But yeah. So I mean, you've written many incredible books. 12 of them. Not going to name every single one right now, but preparing for this interview, Andrew, I really did struggle to kind of find a place where I wanted to start. So what we're going to do is start with your latest book, which is called Bouncing Back. And it made me think of your stepson when I was preparing for the interview, Michael. And you actually shared his gut-wrenching story with me. And I think, you know what, that highlights what Bouncing Back is all about. So I'd love you to share that with our audience so we can start the conversation with Michael's story.
Yeah, so when Michael was 18 years old, he was smart, he was ambitious, he was handsome, and he was driving down a highway in Adelaide, Australia, and his car hit a truck. And the impact of the collision ripped the roof off Michael's car, and he was rushed to the Royal Adelaide Hospital at 3:00 on a Monday with head injuries. And at 6:00, 4 doctors called a meeting, and they said to my wife and I, your son, and what do you say when someone says this to you? They say, your son is brain dead. We would like to take his organs. He can help a lot of people. How do you respond to that? My wife.
Well, I'll tell you real quick. I know you don't know this, but I have a 10-year-old daughter. And so when I heard Michael's story, I mean, she's not driving yet, but obviously, she can get in an auto accident with either me or her mother or any, and it just thinking about hearing any news, it doesn't have to be from an auto accident, but doctors coming out of a room to sit down with you and say, your child is brain dead because of the situation. Like, I don't really know. I couldn't even think right now, like to try to imagine that feeling. That's not something that you can like try to put yourself in until you hear it and it's real. I don't know what to even say to that. That to me, that is the word devastating doesn't even gut wrenching. I said, I mean, I don't know how to put that into words. It's incredible. Like it's horrible.
Yeah. Worst nightmare. So
Yeah.
Julie said, you need to give us some time. And so Julie left the meeting and returned a little while later, and she said, there must be something you can do. My job is to save my son. And they said, well, his brain is swelling inside his skull and it's killing him. And she said, well, can you relieve the pressure inside his skull? Can you cut away a piece of his skull so there's not so much pressure on his brain? And they said, well, we don't think that will help. And she said, well, can you do it anyway? And reluctantly, the doctors agreed. They performed this operation, but by 11 o'clock, they called another meeting and they said, well, we've operated, but like we told you, this might happen. His lungs have now collapsed. He's on a respirator. He's brain dead. We'd like to take his organs. And this time they had a form for Julie to sign.
Yeah.
And Julie said, give him.
Don't you have to sign off? You have to sign off on that ahead of time. I don't know if it's different in the States, but like when you get your license, they ask, do you want to be an organ donor? And you have to say yes or no. And then on the back of your ID, it typically says organ donor. So they know like if this person's in this situation, you're okay with it. But that kind of scares me now. It almost seems like before they check every solution, they're just jumping to conclusion that, yeah, this person's, you know, in a vegetative state like that. And, you know, so let's just take their organs. But I hearing Julie, how she went to bat for Michael is incredible. So she said, what can you guys do?
She said, and then she said, give him 3 days. Give him 3 days and you'll never see me again. But my job is to save my son. And so that was the Monday. On the Thursday at midday, we met at the hospital. We had a priest who gave Michael his last rites, friends, family. And the doctors turned off his respirator and Michael breathed and Michael survived. He was still in a coma and he was in a coma for another 5-6 weeks. And when he came out of the coma, he was severely handicapped. He had lost much of his or all of his movement down the right side of his body. So he couldn't move his right arm, his right leg. He had lost half his sight, half his hearing. He couldn't speak, and he was suffering severe short-term memory loss. Yeah. And so,
but he had some memory though.
He had his long-term memory, but his short-term memory was basically shot.
Well, it's a lot different than what those doctors said. Which I'm not anti-doctor here, or anti-medicine by any means. But my gosh, you're talking about somebody's life, and if Julie, I'm sure most mothers and fathers would fight more than just accepting that news. But if she didn't really push and give him like a 3-day ultimatum, like, you got to figure this out. You won't see me again if this doesn't work. And look at what it did. I mean, yeah, he lost half of those, what did you mention? Your hearing and sight.
Half his sight, half his hearing, and was paralyzed.
I think he'll take that. I think he'll take 50% over 0%, right?
Yeah. And so began a 25-year rehabilitation program. And Michael will still never have a regular job, and Michael will still never chat like you or I do. He struggles to complete a full sentence. And people will often say to Julie, how do you deal with having a severely disabled son? And Julie says, I still have him, and he's a beautiful soul, and he's kind, and he's caring, and he's loving, and he's generous. In other words, she focuses on what she has. And I will often share this story. I shared it in Bouncing Back, and I often share it with audiences because I believe it is a pointer to how we all get through difficult problems, challenges, disasters. And the first one is acceptance. That when something happens that you didn't want and you don't like, the tendency is that we say this isn't fair, we don't accept it, this shouldn't have happened, but that keeps us stuck. And it's actually when we say, I wouldn't have chosen this, we wouldn't have chosen this, but this is what we have and we will deal with it. That's when we can move on. And so acceptance is power. And as long as we say, I don't like this, I'm not accepting it, we're stuck. And that's true for all of us.
Right.
If we get the sack, or if our fiance dumps us, or if we break our leg, as long as we're saying this isn't fair, and we're thinking that if I don't accept it, I won't be stuck with it. The fact is, you're stuck with it until you accept it. So that's number one.
That's really powerful. I want to make sure we don't just steamroll past that. That's an incredible thought. A lot of times on the show, we'll cover the mindset of everything happens for you, not to you. Now, in Michael's situation, it's like how many people are going to say this happened for him, right? I mean, but when you really look at it in acceptance, whether it's him accepting the fact that this is his life now, Julie, or yourself, you're looking at it in a way where we accept it. Now, how can we, what's our perspective on it? You have control over that. But like you're saying is if you don't accept it and you don't, and it's all just negative, then that has control over you, right? So you're just trying to say, how can we actually control how we feel, our happiness after a horrendous situation like that? Am I understanding you right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's the same for every one of us. And it's a little bit like what you're saying. Things are happening for you. And most disasters are not total disasters. Many of us have
right
ended on our back in hospital, or we've lost a job, or we've
Have you ever seen the movie Back to the Future? I know it's a popular movie, but do you remember the original Back to the Future?
I didn't see it. I know it's famous.
Okay, you haven't seen it. Okay, well, you should check it out. It's a great film. But in the film, they go back and they can alter things that happened in the past, but then they realize it alters what happens in the future. And that's the same thing we're talking about, where horrible situations happen. We have no control over them, right? What happened to Michael, I mean, I don't know the situation, but it happened. It's not like he can go, there's no control to be able to go back and change time, right? But with the movie, the idea of it is that good things happen, like maybe something in life happened that we're trying to change, but then we realize that changing that thing, now all the other good things that happen later on in life are tainted, right? So we don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, after a bad situation like you're talking about, there are other good things that can come from it. The things we learn in life, the people that we get closer to, like what we make out of a bad situation can be a good and beautiful thing. And if we always try to change it to be flowers and butterflies and perfection every day, there's things that would never happen in life that would make us who we truly are.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I believe that entirely. I mean, no one is born extraordinary. We become extraordinary by facing challenges we didn't choose.
Say that one more time. That's huge. I saw that in your book, and I love this.
Yeah, no one is born extraordinary. We become extraordinary by facing challenges we didn't choose. And that's related to
talk about the end of that we didn't choose, because we can choose challenges. We can go to the gym and try to lose 50 pounds. We can try to lift heavy weights or run marathons.
Those are usually the easier challenges, where we say, well, I took on this because I decided I was going to get fit or get rich or do something that the girls would think I'm cool or whatever. But it's those things that come out of the blue that we said, I never would have chosen this. And it's how we deal with those.
I love that the word extraordinary is like perfect too, because a lot of times you don't have like these compound words that always make sense, but it's extraordinary, right? It's weird. That one, I guess it doesn't make sense to me because ordinary is not special and extra. I don't know. Side note, that one never made sense to me is what I was trying to say. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, we could change it to out of the ordinary, but that's the word we deal with. And that relates to, so you read Bouncing Back and about the first cartoon in Bouncing Back. And I might explain to our listeners that my books are full of cartoons because I write the kinds of books that I would like to read. And I think if a book feels a little bit more like a magazine and that it's got some pictures and it's got a little bit of white space, then it's easier and more fun to read. And then we can associate the messages with the pictures. So the first cartoon that I choose to put in Bouncing Back, there's a guy climbing a mountain, and he's looking absolutely exhausted and not that happy. And even his dog, who's climbing the mountain with him, looks totally shattered and exhausted. And the caption to the cartoon is, "What you thought was breaking you is probably making you." And that seems to be how life so often works, that the things that we would never have chosen are the things that create character and the things that make us really worthwhile. So if we go back to Michael's story, and so Michael today lives in his own apartment 2 minutes from us. He still goes to the gym 6 days a week. He has speech lessons 25 years down the track. He still has speech lessons every week to help him to speak. He can wash, he can clean, he can cook, he can catch a bus. And he's an inspiration to Julie and I. Whenever he says, whenever we see Julie, he'll look at his mother and he'll say, "Mom, you are beautiful."
Yeah, that's awesome. What a feeling.
You say, still with a paralyzed arm and a paralyzed leg and no prospects of being able to work in a regular kind of a job. He does a little bit of volunteer work here and there. You say, "How are you doing, Michael?" He'll say, "Excellent." "How was the gym today?" "Yeah. Excellent."
So I got to ask you this then, Andrew. Did his mentality in that situation, was that the springboard for these 12 books and the fact that you really focused on the idea of we control our happiness? Happiness is a mindset that we have control over. Did that situation springboard this, or were you already thinking that before this happened and you kind of helped mentor him into that mindset?
I'd written Being Happy, which was my first book. I'd written Being Happy before Michael's accident. And so Michael's experience and Michael's courage helped to inspire all of us. And and has really consolidated my understanding of how it's not what happens to us, but it's how we think about what happens to us that matters. And you know, Michael just has this extraordinary ability to just look at the good things, and he's become a much more open and loving, and as some of us do when some of our like intellectual capacity is stripped away a little bit. Michael is a loving, caring, generous fellow who inspires all of us. So
it's incredible.
The things that we learn, Mike. Now, so number one was acceptance. Number two is persistence. As I mentioned, it's been a 25-year journey of rehabilitation, and he's struggled. We've struggled. The kids that Michael went to school with are now barristers and tennis coaches and electricians, and we had similar dreams for Michael, and he had similar dreams for himself. And then the third thing, and you touched on that before we went on air, is gratitude, the importance of gratitude. What's good about gratitude, because you can't be grateful and angry at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So somebody's going through a tragedy right now. There's someone listening to this, and maybe it's not even them personally, but they want to share this episode with somebody who's going through something with a similar situation, a tragedy, a failure. They feel stuck. The first thing they need to do is find acceptance in the situation, be persistent over time. It's going to take time. Michael was in and out of different rehab. 25 years later, he's still doing speech therapy and different things. And the third thing is to find time where you can sit in gratitude. Correct? Those are the top three things people need to do.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to add if someone's like going through it right now and they found our episode and it's bringing them a lot of light right now, and maybe they need a hug, but they need maybe a little bit something, say, hey, it's going to be okay?
When I look at what helped us and what helps people that inspire me, it's living life one day at a time. If we look at our challenge as how am I going to manage in 5 years' time, or how am I going to manage in 10 years' time, we are overwhelmed. So we need to live our life and embrace our challenges as we would climb a mountain. If you're climbing a mountain and you get stuck on a ledge, then suddenly all of your focus just goes into the present moment. I just need to deal with this ledge. And you can't be at that point worried about, well, what's going to happen in a month's time, or what's everything that could go wrong, or what's everything that I need to do in the next year. All of your focus goes into just the next couple of minutes of, how do I deal with this? Let me just solve this problem. And that is what effective people do. We may have an overall plan of where we're headed, but it's just breaking down the big challenges into just today. And sometimes it's just, what have I got to do for the next hour, or even sometimes the next 5 minutes.
That's incredible. When I say football and talk about the sport of football, you and I are going to think of two different things, but I'm thinking of a quarterback, right? So the defensive line is trying to kill this guy. There's an offensive line trying to protect him so he can stay upright and throw the ball. The only thing he can be thinking about in the moment when he snaps that football from the center and gets it, you got 5 guys trying to rip his head off, is how he's going to maneuver, what his outlets are, his running back, his receivers, right down the field. And if he's thinking about, what he's doing after the game, or who he's meeting up with, or his friends in from out of town, in that moment, he's done. He's going to get crushed. So you feel, a quarterback is, the great ones are able to really excel in that moment. And, someone who's climbing Mount Everest, is they continue to be focused, laser focused in those moments and not be distracted. I think in entrepreneurship, same thing. We got a lot of shiny object syndrome. That's one of my faults, is someone shows me something, or I get an email and now I got to do something, and I just want to get it done and do it at a high level right away. But what you're saying is really important for people, just in perspective of their life. We talk about happiness, talk about gratitude, spend time, make time like you're on a mountain and you need to make your next step without falling off of this thing. That same level of importance to detail, spend that amount of time in gratitude, right? And don't let anything else get in the way. I think that's super incredible advice. That's one of my favorite things. Over 250 episodes, like the idea that we need to make the important things in our life. Maybe that's 15 minutes with your kid. You worked all day long. Your kid comes home from school. They're busy. You're busy. That whole thing of, hey, Dad, can I play catch with you in the yard for 15 minutes? Absolutely. Let's go. Right. Opposed to, I got this big report I'm doing, and tomorrow I'm presenting it in front of the board of directors. That's true. That's important. You need to stay up 15 minutes later now, but your son or daughter, those moments are life-changing. And so I think it's important for us to make sure we're present in that. Really good.
Yeah.
So Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and we all need to remind ourselves every so often, maybe every day, that my life is just a series of moments. I've just got to make each moment work, and that adds up to a happy life. And
Right.
it's a cliche, but that's how we do it. And so
I think a lot of times we try to focus on it's important to do big picture vision
yeah.
boards and stuff like that, but you really got to break it into incremental moments. And like those pivotal moments throughout your life are the stepping stones for, like, if you say, I want this beautiful life and beautiful wife and house and car and everything, and, money in the bank account and time with my kids, all that stuff is great. But like, what are the little things you're going to do every day to make sure those things happen?
Well said.
Yeah. And Andrew, so if somebody's looking to turn the same thing into habits and they want to do it consistently on a daily basis, what are some ways of the things that we just talked about? Is it just scheduling gratitude in before you check your email? I mean, do you personally have kind of a guideline that you follow?
Yeah, I do a gratitude list. So I have a diary. I still because I like to draw a lot. I like to have a physical diary, and I'll draw little cartoon ideas in my diary. So at the top of my page in my diary, I'll get up and I'll write down 3 things that I'm grateful for today. And I find that's a really helpful start and gets me focused, and it only takes me a minute. And here's the thing about gratitude. Sometimes if we do something like a gratitude list, we might think, well, I'm running out of big things. I've said, I'm happy I've got a roof over my head. I'm happy I've got a job. And do I just want to then get focused on all the little stuff, like, I can see a flower through my office window or something. But here's the thing. The happiest people we meet find joy from the smallest things. So the more that we become grateful for the tiny things, the closer we are getting to think like the happiest people that we know. So it's not about being grateful for big, mind-blowing things. And if we start doing a gratitude list tomorrow, then we may say, I'm thankful I still have my parents, or I'm thankful that I live in a country where I've got enough to eat and I'm not having bombs dropped on me. But the important thing is then we also begin to move to the tiny little things.
Yeah.
And as we do that, then we're starting to think like the most grateful and the happiest people think, getting joy from tiny things.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the magic is just thinking about those little special things, like the fact that you're an illustrator. That is a talent that some people have that's greater than others, right? I can draw, but I'm very limited. Your art is a beautiful thing. As much as you're a great author, you're a great illustrator. Those things for you come hand in hand, which is amazing. And I love seeing somebody on purpose using their God-given talent to help inspire other people. You're doing that directly through your books and artwork. But I want everyone who's watching and tuning in right now to think, what's their little, like, maybe you're not an illustrator, but maybe you make people laugh, or, or that special thing you do with your daughter, that makes her happy and laugh. Like, find those little things that are magical. Maybe you are happy that the car you have is the actual car you're excited about, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's these little things that a lot of times people do take for granted. And I think that's where gratitude for me is really special, because it irons that out real fast,
Gratitude is really the foundation for happiness. When people say, how can I be happier? Once you start looking for things to be grateful for, then happiness is guaranteed. More happiness, at least. So there's a cartoon in Bouncing Back. There's a guy, and he's looking absolutely delighted and ecstatic, and he's eating one slice of cake. And the caption next to that little guy is, happy people focus on what they have. And then the next panel of the cartoon is a very grumpy, dispirited, angry-looking guy, and he's got an entire cake, this huge cake, with one slice missing. And the caption next to him is, unhappy people focus on what's missing. And
That's so good.
So that is how life is. It's not about what you've got, it's about what you focus on. And ultimately we tend to get more of what we focus on, but it's a choice of we're saying, what do I have? We've all been to countries where they have so little, and yet the people seem so much happier.
They're great. The kids are playing.
Yeah.
They're running around in a mud pit playing soccer, and they're as happy as can be. They're playing instruments made out of things in the forest, and it's incredible. And then here we are with, I'm in the States, I'm outside the Philly area, but just in general, I think a lot of times people here can be spoiled. They just grew up and just had access to all this stuff in the internet. And kids today, now I sound like an old man, kids today, but it's true. Like anybody really born after 2010 has no idea of a world without cell phones and the internet. Like they couldn't even relate to it really. So that's why I am blessed. I was born in the mid 80s, because in school, we went from computers barely could do anything to the amazing computers we have today. I got to see all that, like literally from the Oregon Trail game that barely did anything to what we have today in technology, and AI is incredible. And I can share that with my daughter, because all she knows at 10 is everyone has an iPhone in their hand, and it can literally tell you and do anything you need in seconds. And the world was not always like that. So, there's a lot from our own story we can pass on to our kids, which is incredible. I love that your books are obviously colorful. They have your art and playful nature in them, but they're not, Roger was talking in the interview you did with Roger Martin. His wife saw him preparing for the interview and saw him reading your book. And she's like, "Are you reading a children's book?" He's like, No. I'm preparing for the interview. There's a lot of heart here. This is deep stuff. But yeah, I love the fact that it has a playful nature. Like you said, the picture of illustrating the fact that people are focusing on the sliver and not the big pie, or whatever it is in your life. And so, I think gratitude's a great place for people to get recentered. Is there anything else you wanted to add, like to help people just make sure, how can we remind ourselves throughout the day? Gratitude seems to be a really great thing to do in the morning, but we should always be able to just stop ourselves, take a deep breath, reflect, and maybe think of some gratitude. But is there anything else that you've seen work for anyone who's like read your books and they come up to you and say, "This is the thing that really changed my life"? Perspective.
There's so much. I mean, there's little things like understanding that, for example, we all know that we talk about what we think about. You think about food, you end up talking about food. Yeah, but the reverse is also true. What you talk about, you think about. And so it's a good idea not to complain, because the more that you complain, the more that you keep on thinking about what you've just been talking about. So if you want to be happier, quit complaining. Just when I was writing Being Happy, I made a pact with myself, and that's 1988. I've been around a while. I made a pact with myself. I'm never, ever going to complain about the weather for the rest of my life. It'll just save me a lot of time. And it's great.
Again, you have zero control over it. So
why would
raining,
you want to?
It's sunny. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like saying the moon is too far away. I mean, why would you? So
that's so good.
Not complaining is helpful. We notice that kind people are happy people. So if we just recognize that, I can be a little bit kinder, I'll be happier. That helps. We just, which might even mean that when we say to someone, "How are you?" we take long enough to actually find out how they're doing. You
don't answer for him. Like I just saw a funny comedian yesterday, and he was doing an Italian thing, which I'm Italian, so I appreciated it and understood. But you walk up at like a party, if you're around people who, you're kind of like your wife dragged you there or whatever, and you just go up to someone and you say, "Hey, Steve, how's the thing? How's the thing? Everything's good. And so like you answer it for him. You say it's good. So then they are just like, yeah, everything's cool. It's good. All right, great. Happy to see you, and you move on to the next person. It's that thing of that's not being kind. He was just talking to that person and even answering their question for him, essentially, so he can move on and get the hell out of there. But what you're talking about is, when you're rolling through at the grocery store and the person's bagging your groceries, now you're standing there with them for 1 to 5 minutes. Truly make them, maybe your intentions to make them laugh or smile, to reflect, to bring up something, maybe they have a character on their shirt and you share a story about what that movie means to you or whatever. I'm just off the cuff right now, but
the 2 seconds,
so good what you just said.
The 2 seconds that it takes to use their name and say Mike, and they suddenly realize he doesn't even know me, but he's taken the trouble to notice that I'm not a number, I'm a person, and my name is Mike. It means such a lot, and you may be the first person that day that's actually recognized that here is, there's a person inside this,
Yeah, just acknowledging. But what's important is what you said is, okay, now you asked the question, now you made the engagement, but listening, truly listening. That's where I've struggled in the past, because I have good intentions, but I get excited and I start to want to. So becoming a better listener in the moment. Yeah. And with a stranger, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere in life. Got a couple more things I want to talk about, but before we do that, we do have to give some love to our sponsors. Number one is Social Chameleon. You can check them out at socialchameleon.us. Yes, that is my company. It is a podcast production agency. You press record, we handle the rest. Check us out at socialchameleon.us, and it is podcasting done for you. Riverside.fm, we're recording this across the world and doing it at 4 o'clock in the morning for Andrew and 2:30 in the afternoon here for me. We're using Riverside because it captures high quality audio, video, gets all the files to our editing team here at Social Chameleon. We do what we need to do, and it works well at riverside.fm. So if you're interested in checking them out, click on the link right in our description. You can do that. And then the way we get this show on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you're listening to your podcasts, we go to libsyn.com. It's libsyn.com. And that's how we do all of our distribution. So back to Andrew here. You are literally an author. And I love that when you talk about your books, it's really like it's reminding people that they're the protagonist in their own life. And a lot of times we forget that. So I want to talk about that. But I also want to pick your mind about you're the author and protagonist in your own life. You get to write the ending, right? So God willing, you continue to live a long and prosperous life. Talking about you right now, reflecting on your own journey. You're looking back. You get to define your legacy. What would you like that to be?
I want to have made the world a better place. That has been my focus. That specifically, I've written books over the last 35 years, helping people to understand that they have more power than they knew to create a beautiful life, and that wherever we are, we can create a better life, a happier life, better relationships by doing some fairly simple things that anyone can manage.
And as you can see, guys, he's doing it. He's literally doing it for 35 years. Exactly what he said is what you're doing. And that's what I love. I want to tell you something real quick. I apologize for interrupting you, but that's a question that I used to ask like in the first 150 episodes. And I kind of got rid of it because I wanted to make sure that the end of our episode stayed fresh and it didn't get, he's going to roll out that last question. So I kind of got away from it and just kind of like, if we wanted to go there. But when I was preparing for this interview and then talking to you, I'm thinking to myself, this is someone who's literally on purpose. They're living out what they choose. Like I can tell that your legacy without you even answering it. And so hearing you put it into words, it's like, he's doing it, man. And you're inspiring me through your actions. And so that's why I wanted to ask you that question.
Thank you.
And anybody who's listening right now, what is the thing? Maybe you're not going to write the next book on being happy or, resilience or comeback stories, but what's your thing that you want to share with the world? What's that little magical spark, the reason that you're on this planet? there's more reason than for us to just breathe air and survive, right? And live a 9 to 5 and whatever. Like everyone has a story. And if a 9 to 5 is in your story, cool. But there's got to be some magic behind it. So that's what I'm talking about here. And having Andrew on the show, what a great dancing partner in conversation. So I think I got you here for a couple more minutes. I want to be mindful of your time. Anything else that you'd like to share with our audience that we didn't talk about yet? And then even before you do that, is there a moment where someone, just a special moment where someone did come up to you? Maybe it was at the grocery store, tapped you on the shoulder, or just said, hey, I've read your books and love what you do. Is there anything where you got a little bit of that, not that you're looking for it, but that appreciation coming back to you, some of that love coming right back?
You know, Mike, I've been so blessed because I get messages and emails every day. And they come from Croatia, and they come from Mexico, and they come from Cambodia. And they're saying, I read your book and it made a difference, and I'm happy with my life, and you know, I bounced back from getting the sack, or I bounced back from a divorce, or I was broken, and your book, Being Happy or Follow Your Heart, or Bouncing Back, gave me the courage to push out on my own and create my own business. And I mean, there's a story I tell in Bouncing Back, and this is a man that inspires me every day. I was in a shopping mall in Malaysia, and this fellow walked up to me. He was neatly dressed. He was maybe close to 40. And he said to me, are you Andrew Matthews? And I looked at his phone. I could see that he was on my website. And he had me on his phone. And I was wearing the same shirt as on his phone. I thought he was going to say, haven't you got another shirt? But
yeah,
he said to me, I read your book. I read the Indonesian version of your book when I was at my lowest point, and tears began to well up in his eyes. And my wife was in a jewelry store. That's why I was just sort of hanging around. I thought it was maybe better if I was hanging around outside the jewelry store. And so that's how he saw me. So we went and had a coffee. He shared with me that when he read my book, it was given to him by somebody who was a friend of his. He was broke. He was able to eat one meal every 2 days. He had this dream that one day he would finish his degree, that he would get a job, and he said, reading your book made me aware of two things. Number one is that I can choose my thoughts, and number two is I needed to set myself some meaningful goals. So he said, I decided that I wanted to have an international job. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have a wife and 2 kids. And he said, today, he said, I'm the international business manager for a multinational corporation. My children go to international school. He said, I drive a BMW. Wow. He told me what his bonus was last year, which is more than most people still make. Yeah. And he said, being happy changed my entire life. Now, wow, this guy, we now have breakfast together like once a year somewhere.
He's become a friend.
He has, and wow. he is now a high-flying executive. He's currently based in Houston.
I bet you I guarantee you he bought his book and has gifted it to people along the way, like when he meets someone maybe in a rut.
He does that.
I guarantee.
His children are extraordinary achievers now. One is in Oxford and topping medicine, and the other one has got a degree in engineering. But this guy who was just absolutely on his knees and broke. And so people like Teku is his name, and people like Teku inspire me. And so I'm so blessed that people write to me on a regular basis and say, I like your books because it was simple, it had pictures, I could understand it, I could implement it.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about Follow Your Heart. And we didn't really get into that book today. You mentioned it a couple times. is there a principal lesson there? I mean, obviously I believe in following your heart. I talk to my daughter about it all the time. Having her think at a very young age about what she really wants to do and the purpose behind it. But from your perspective, writing that book, what would be like one or two key takeaways that you'd like to share with someone right now? Maybe they're thinking about starting a business and getting away from kind of doing a job. They're not thrilled with what they're doing. What would be like a key concept for them to say, all right, here's how you get a hold of it?
It's understanding that it's possible for anybody who wants to do it. I mean, for those of us that don't grow up knowing somebody who just either creates their own business or does their own thing, people do it. And it's a matter of saying, okay, maybe I haven't been doing it until now, but let me take small steps. Very often, so follow your heart is largely about career and understanding that you can do something you love. And if you're not ready to do something you love as a career, then at least do it as a hobby.
Right.
Don't live your whole life saying, I wish I could do that as a career. Find a way to at least be doing it in your spare time and see if you can create a job out of what you love doing in your spare time, and understanding that it's not as easy as it seems in the movies. You watch a movie and somebody goes and rents an office the size of a tennis court, and a couple of years later they retire and they're living in Hawaii. But in real life, you start your business very often in your bedroom or on your kitchen table.
Sure.
And you just build it bit by bit, and it's really tough. And there are many days when you wonder whether you're going to survive, but you just attack it like you climb a mountain. You say, "Let me just manage today," and it is possible to do something that you really love, if not in your complete career work time, then at least in your spare time. I've never, and I speak from experience, Mike, I've never had a job. No one has ever paid me even for one day's work as an employee. So I've made my living as an international speaker, as a portrait painter, as a
You know what's really incredible? You actually were about to go into law, and then you decided. Right? You went from,
I began a law degree.
Careers. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine what the world would have been like if you practiced law and that was your thing? It wouldn't be as great as it is today, man.
I think so.
Think of that guy that you just talked about that you're now friends with. If he didn't read your book, his whole life would have been different. So, you are on purpose, but you were going to study law, and then I don't know your story back then, but like when you decided not to do that and pursue illustration. Did you get a lot of pushback from your parents, or were they not part of that conversation, or what did that look like?
Yeah, it would be very romantic to say I went against my parents. I watched my father do things that he loved his whole life. He was a farmer, but he farmed for fun. His principal income for the last 30 years of his life is he was a professional landscape painter. Made a great living painting landscapes and sold them all over Australia. He was
so cool.
He was a small kind of real estate developer. He would build workshops for mechanics and for furniture makers and rent out these little spaces for 1- and 2-man businesses and that sort of thing. So he loved to do many different things. So when I said to him, I don't want to do law anymore, I want to be an artist, which is why I went and studied art at the Art Students League of Manhattan, New York. He said, great. Because he thought he thought I was a gifted artist. So it's not like I showed any particular courage to follow my dream. My parents both just said, do what makes you happy and do it well. But what I learned from my father was he was seriously disciplined. He did what he loved, but he worked every day. He worked 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But he
By
loved
choice.
it. Yeah,
That's an incredible thing. I mean, and a lot of times there could be the eye roll of, oh yeah, you truly love what you do, so you feel like you do it even if you didn't get paid, and someone might roll their eye at that. It's like, okay, you're choosing again to see the sliver, all right, that's missing, opposed to what you do have there. It's that perspective. Like the biggest word of today, of our conversation today, is for me is perspective. And a lot of times someone's reflecting their unhappiness back on you, if they're challenging you, like, someone's trying to start out in art and they're like, there's no money in that. It's like, maybe what they're telling you is, man, if you're successful in that and that's what you love, then I'm over here hurting because I'm doing something I don't like. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times it's people putting their unhappiness back on you, So, but yeah, I think today's conversation had so many different ways to really rewire our brains into a conversation of gratitude, happiness, thinking about how we can be extraordinary through turmoil, like you said. And as an entrepreneur, it's inevitable. You're gonna have a rocky road, right? But man, like you said, just being appreciative of all those little things. And then what I really took away is being laser focused. Like, again, you're climbing a mountain. You cannot think about anything else right now except for climbing the mountain, but do that with things that you choose, that you want to spend time with every day. And don't allow yourself to be distracted. I think
and give ourselves permission to do things that we love, like every week. If you love to create music or walk on the beach.
You're speaking to me directly. I love to play the drums, and right now I haven't picked up drumsticks in a long time, and it kills me every day. And you're reminding me like that I need to find a studio locally where I can make some noise, because right now I couldn't do that in my apartment that I'm in. But yeah, like, you got me itching to just get out there and do that more.
Wonderful.
And whatever someone's listening right now, like maybe it is they pick up and they write their first book, and their first 1988 version of being happy like you did is somebody else's new journey. Right. And man, that's awesome. I just want anyone who's tuning in right now, thank you for being with us for the whole ride here, all the way to the end. I know a lot of people, they put podcasts on and we got that like 5-second attention span nowadays. So anybody who tunes in all the way to the end, I really appreciate you. Let us know what you think of the episode. If you did like it, I'm guessing you did if you're here all the way at the end. Remember to like, subscribe, do all those things that everyone asks you to do at the end of their show. But I want you to do it from your heart. If this did mean something to you, subscribe, because we have a lot of other stories similar to Andrew's on the show week after week, and you're gonna like other episodes. And so make sure you turn on your notifications, so whenever the episodes come out, you get to see them first. And we do release an episode every Monday. So I appreciate you guys being with us. Andrew, thank you so much for being with us. 4:00 in the morning, you logged into this conversation. I don't know how you did it, but you did it at a high level. And we're talking about gratitude. I am grateful for you, man. I tell everyone, be great and be grateful. And I was grateful for this conversation. Any last words for the audience?
Mike, I'm so grateful to share this hour with you. And my thought is that happiness is a decision that we make every day, and it's free.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best thing, isn't it? It's free. We can choose to click it on and off whenever we want. Beautiful message, man. Thank you so much for being with us. Cheers.
Thank you.
Keep on moving.